Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News Breakdown. This week we've got major developments heading into the second Bahrain Test. And I have to say, what Ferrari have done behind the scenes is genuinely remarkable. There's been a lot of positivity surrounding the SF26, and it is only getting stronger. Ferrari ran their first power unit for over 4,000 kilometers. That's roughly 15 race distances. With zero failures, zero reliability drama, nothing. They were the first team confirmed to be running the actual 2026 Shell biofuel, while most teams may still have been on last year's spec. And now a brand new engine, a new gearbox, and a new aero package are all arriving for Test 2. Oh, and the FIA has already approved the new parts Ferrari are bringing this week. But the most fascinating story coming out of testing isn't even about pace. It's about the starting procedure drama. Because Ferrari saw a massive problem coming that every other team completely ignored. And now McLaren are desperately calling for rule changes before Melbourne. We'll get into that, because the politics of this situation, honestly, it's incredible. Also, and I find this really interesting, the tyre compound selections that teams have made for this test tell you so much about who's hiding their true pace. We'll break that down as well. Your thoughts on all of this in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy these breakdowns. Subscribe if you are new. As always, let's get into things. Now look, honestly, a few weeks ago when the Barcelona shakedown happened, even I was skeptical. I was texting a mate of mine. He's a massive Ferrari fan, been through years of disappointment, the upgrades that made the car worse, the strategy disasters. And I told him, "Don't get excited, bro, it's just testing." He sent me back one word, just one: watch. And honestly, watching how Bahrain unfolded, he might actually be onto something this time. Here's what happened between Barcelona and Bahrain. In Barcelona, most teams, including Ferrari, were running hybrid fuels, either last year's spec or some sort of mix, because the 2026 fuels weren't fully homologated yet. But when Bahrain came around, Ferrari did something nobody expected. They loaded up Shell's brand new 2026 Advanced Sustainable Biofuel, the actual race fuel, and ran it for the entire first test. And the reason this matters so much is what Shell has done behind the scenes. They've been developing this fuel since the beginning of 2022. 4 full years. They used over 1 million digital simulations to identify the perfect molecular blend for Ferrari's engine. Shell's own principal scientist Valeria Loretti described it like this: "It is like when you go and buy a dress at a tailor. It is done just for you." That's the level of customization we're talking about. This isn't fuel you buy at the petrol station. This is molecular engineering, tailored specifically to the Ferrari power unit. Now, what makes this even more interesting? Shell's fuel is a biofuel. It's derived from advanced sustainable feedstocks through their Raisin joint venture in Brazil. Meanwhile, Mercedes' supplier, Petronas, and Red Bull's Aramco are leaning more towards synthetic e-fuels, which should theoretically be more consistent from batch to batch. But here's the trade-off. Shell's biofuel potentially delivers higher raw performance, and the fact that Ferrari ran it the entire test with zero issues, that's a massive confidence signal heading into Melbourne. I saw on the Ferrari subreddit that there is actually a lack of information on whether other teams even used 2026 compliant fuels. So Ferrari may have a genuine data head start that nobody is talking about. And it doesn't stop at fuel. Ferrari are bringing a fresh power unit and a new gearbox for Test 2. The FIA has already approved new aero components, floor changes, front wing updates. But the biggest changes are actually internal. The way they manage cooling, the internal fluid dynamics, stuff you can't see from the outside. Autoracer calls internal flow management the new biofuel for development. That's how critical it is. And the SF26 looks conservative on purpose. It's a fundamentally sound platform designed to be radically upgraded as the season unfolds. One X post that got over 265,000 views confirmed. Ferrari has already used the second chassis meant for Melbourne during testing. That's how far ahead of schedule they are. Right, so let's talk about this starting procedure situation, because I promised we'd get into it. And honestly, this is where Ferrari have played an absolute blinder. With the removal of the MGU-H for 2026, race starts have become incredibly complicated. Drivers now need to rev their engines above 12,000 RPM for at least 10 seconds just to get the turbo spinning fast enough for a clean getaway. If the timing is even slightly off, the car could drop into anti-stall and you're just stuck on the grid. Oscar Piastri summed it up perfectly. You could be losing 6 or 7 spots if it goes wrong. And this isn't just theory. Franco Colapinto nearly crashed into the pit wall during a practice start in Bahrain. George Russell said it best. We're very conscious that for a race start, you go when the lights are out. You don't go when your specific turbo is in the right window. That is a genuinely scary problem. But here's the thing. And this is the part that blows my mind. Ferrari saw this problem coming over a year ago. Fred Vasseur actually proposed changing the start procedure to address exactly this issue. And what did every other team do? They voted no. They laughed it off, so Ferrari took matters into their own hands. They invested the money, they engineered a smaller turbo that spools up faster, and they solved the problem themselves. Now, McLaren's Andrea Stella is calling for imperative regulation changes before Melbourne. And I saw one post on X that absolutely nailed it. Vasseur warned you lot a year ago. You laughed at him. That had nearly 300 likes because everyone knows it's true. Ferrari's position is crystal clear. We gave you the opportunity, you didn't take it. That's not our problem. And remember, Ferrari have veto power in F1. If they want to block a rule change to protect their advantage, they absolutely can. Now, the F1 Commission met this week to discuss exactly this. Whether any changes actually happen before Melbourne remains to be seen. But what I do want to get into is what the tyre data is telling us, because that is where we really see who's hiding their true pace. I want to hear from you on this one though. Drop a comment below. Should the FIA change the rules to bail out McLaren, or did Ferrari earn this advantage fair and square? This is getting heated, and I genuinely want to see where the F1 News Breakdown family stands. Right, so the tyre data. I find this fascinating. Mercedes are clearly sandbagging. They're running only hard compounds, C1 and C2, and completely avoiding the softer C4 and C5. No interest whatsoever in showing soft tyre pace. They're presumably focused on race simulation and long-run data, which is smart, but it also means the lap times you're seeing on the timing screens, not even close to their actual speed. Meanwhile, Cadillac are the only team taking every single compound. Sets of everything, C1 through C5. For a brand new team, they just want baseline data across the board. And then there's Aston Martin, not even bothering with C1 or C2. No race sim tyres at all. That is genuinely alarming. The C3 will be the most used compound this season, so most teams are maximizing running on that. But the bottom line is, the timesheets right now are basically meaningless. Who's really fastest? We won't know until Melbourne. Now, onto the active aero, because the DRS era is officially over. You'll see new SM panels, that's straight line mode, replacing the old DRS boards at every circuit this season. The system runs in 2 modes, X mode, which is low drag for straights, and Z mode for high downforce through corners. Unlike DRS, there's no gap requirement to the car in front. Teams can activate wherever it's allowed. Some drivers will be far more aggressive with when they activate than others, and I think that's going to create some really interesting racing moments. But here's the concern. Charles Leclerc has already said overtaking isn't easy, and this is day one. The 2022 cars started at 95% downforce retention at 20 meters, and that's already dropped to 80% with the current cars. The 2026 target is 90%. But the FIA's Tombazi says, hopefully, they won't see the same decay. When the guy in charge is using the word hopefully, I'm not exactly reassured. And Aston Martin, look, it's a full-blown crisis over there. 4.5 seconds off the pace. Lawrence Stroll reportedly furious. Honda's engine development has fallen behind. There are rumors of disputes between the team and the manufacturer. The gearbox can't handle short shifting for battery recovery, and building a new one could take 6 months. Fernando Alonso says, eventually we will have the best car. But Paddock sources say the earliest they'll be competitive is the second half of the season. I genuinely feel for Alonso. He's 44 years old, chasing that third title, and Honda might have cursed him all over again. Now, let's bring this back to the main question. Can Lewis Hamilton actually win his 8th World Championship this year? Fred Vasseur says the collaboration between the team and Lewis on the pit wall is very good. His exact words, "My feeling is very positive. The mindset is to try to do a better job tomorrow than today." Hamilton does have a new race engineer arriving, though it's been delayed because McLaren have put the French engineer they were bringing in on an extra 3 months of gardening leave. Even that has become drama between the teams. But Vasseur's message to the media was clear. Please stop with this story. It's never about an individual. It's about the team. And when you look at the 1,500 people working at Ferrari right now, plus Shell's molecular engineering, plus the political savvy of Vasseur and the Ferrari leadership, this feels different from previous Ferrari hype cycles. Look, when you step back and look at all of this, the biofuel breakthrough, the chassis evolution, the starting procedure masterstroke, the political chess, Ferrari are ticking boxes that they simply were not ticking last year. This isn't just hype. There is substance behind it. Whether it translates to a world championship, we'll see. But the preseason for Ferrari has been significantly better than anything we've seen from them in years. And if Lewis Hamilton finally has the machinery to match his talent, well, title number 8 might just be on the table. And that should worry absolutely everyone. Listen, if you made it this far, you're part of the F1 News Breakdown family, and I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. The 2026 season is going to be the most chaotic, most political, most unpredictable year in recent memory. And if you're not subscribed, you're going to miss the deep breakdowns that nobody else is giving you. Hit subscribe right now, turn on the bell notification, and tell me in the comments, who do you think wins the 2026 World Championship? Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren? Or is there a dark horse nobody's talking about? I'm reading every single comment, and the best ones get pinned. Very much your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. F1 News Breakdown, out.